I'm David Cott, host of New History of Spain, and this is episode 26, titled The Fall of the Umayyad Caliphate. In this episode I will explain how and why the Umayyad Caliphate of Damascus fell, how the Fitna, the Civil War, affected al-Andalus, and the establishment of the little-known Fihrid Emirate that preceded the Umayyad Emirate of Córdoba. Why did the Umayyad Caliphate of Damascus fall? Before we begin, if you are on YouTube, remember to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. There you will find more content besides this chronological series, such as a video on why Spain didn't join World War II. And if you really enjoy the show, please support it by becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/newhistoryspain. Far too often, Spanish history books focus on al-Andalus when discussing the transition from the Umayyad Caliphate of Damascus to the Emirate of Córdoba. However, the key events occurred at the empire's core, in the Middle East, because without that turmoil, al-Andalus may have never become independent. That's why I will first discuss the Third Fitna and the Abbasid Revolution that brought down the Umayyad Caliphate of Damascus before turning to events in al-Andalus. But beyond the Abbasid Revolution itself, what were the key factors behind the fall of the Umayyad dynasty? Throughout its history, the Umayyad Caliphate faced recurring structural problems like any other state, yet these issues never led to the dynasty's collapse, until they did. According to historian Khalid Yahya Blankenship, the most decisive factor was a series of military defeats suffered during the reign of Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik. In the 730s, the Arab Syrian troops, the backbone of Umayyad power, suffered heavy losses in the Caucasus, Transoxiana, Anatolia, and India. Other regional armies also lost soldiers and had to be reinforced with these already depleted Syrian troops, since they were the most trusted and privileged. The Great Berber Revolt, driven by these military setbacks and Maghrebi grievances, further highlighted the end of Islamic conquests and the looting economy they sustained. The number of Syrian Arab soldiers available for recruitment wasn't unlimited, and the training and experience of fallen soldiers could not be easily replaced. Thus, the Arab Syrian troops were decimated and discontented, no longer enjoying the military superiority they once had over the rest of the caliphal forces. By the 740s, Syrian armies were scattered across the empire, leaving the caliph's power base vulnerable. Meanwhile, forces in Iraq, Khorasan, and beyond gained influence and could intervene more directly in caliphal politics. The Umayyads continued trying to expand on all fronts, which led to the fatal weakening of the Syrian armies and the empire as a whole. This was the decisive factor that allowed internal tensions and civil strife to erupt. Indefinite Arab expansion was no longer feasible. Non-Arab Muslims demanded equality, but the ruling elite offered half measures. The Umayyads were the establishment, so they could only patch up the system instead of bringing about major changes that could only come from the opposition. Military disasters broke the state finances, which they tried to compensate for by increasing taxes. Add military defeats to higher taxes, and what you get is an increasingly discontented population and a crisis of legitimacy for the Umayyad dynasty. Because of that, some saw alternative leaders as viable replacements for the Umayyads, who appeared more like tyrants focused on taxation rather than faith. Some believed the Prophet's family could lead the community of believers more justly, while others resented the privileges of the Arab aristocracy and Syrian military, and the fact that regional interests were sidelined under Umayyad centralization. Moreover, there were the non-Arab converts who faced exclusion from power and discrimination due to Arab supremacism, fueling further opposition. These grievances had existed for decades and had been manageable, until the main pillar of the Umayyad Caliphate, its prized Arab Syrian troops, had suffered severe losses. Perhaps the worst part was that discontent wasn't limited to those excluded from power. Internal conflicts also affected the Syrian armies and the Umayyad dynasty itself. Some Umayyads even supported Shia or Harahite uprisings that directly opposed their own rule. It was in this context that the Qays-Yaman conflict erupted across the caliphate. This factional conflict with tribal connotations, which I briefly mentioned in episode 21, Islam and the Arab Conquests Explained, had primarily affected the provinces up until then. But by the 740s, the dominance of one faction could determine the next caliph. According to historian Shaban, the Qays supported maintaining Arab supremacy and continuing the conquests, while the Yaman favored integrating non-Arabs into Islamic society. However, Arab chronicles portray these clashes as tribal struggles, and a study by Patricia Krohn convincingly demonstrates that there were no ideological differences between the Qays and Yaman. So, what were the Qays and Yaman then? They were Arab power factions that justified their alliances through largely fabricated genealogies. Unstable factions led by political and military leaders who could mobilize Arab supporters and Mawali, the non-Arab Muslim clients within their patronage networks, in exchange for positions and wealth. It wasn't uncommon for political calculations or personal rivalries to lead some Qays to ally with some Yaman and vice versa, making historical analysis even more complicated. To justify such shifts in allegiance, they even resorted to forging genealogies. The intensification of political struggles between Qays and Yaman would not have been possible had the Caliphate itself not entered a crisis due to Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik military disasters. This was the perfect storm that led to the third Fitna in Islamic history and the Abbasid Revolution. The outbreak of the Third Fitna. The Third Fitna began in 744 with the rebellion against Caliph al-Walid II and ended in 747 with Marwan II's victory over several rivals. However, the Abbasid Revolution followed immediately, preventing Marwan from fully controlling the former Umayyad domains. Therefore, the Third Fitna and the Abbasid Revolution overlapped, ultimately leading to the collapse of the Umayyad Caliphate of Damascus and the rise of the Abbasids. Even before this, the Great Berber Revolt had already fractured the Western Islamic world, making the 740s a decade of turmoil. Caliph Yazid II had appointed his brother Hisham as heir, stipulating that his own son, al-Walid, would succeed him. However, Hisham ruled far longer than expected and considered naming his own son instead, as Yazid's son had a poor reputation. In the end, al-Walid II succeeded his uncle but faced immediate opposition from other descendants of the revered Caliph Abd al-Malik, religious leaders who condemned his impiety, and Yaman Arabs who resented his father's favoritism toward the Qays faction. Al-Walid II worsened tensions by allowing Iraq's new governor to torture his predecessor to death. Seizing the opportunity, Yazid III, an Umayyad cousin, took Damascus in 744 while Al-Walid, unable to access the treasury, was defeated and assassinated. The death of this unpopular caliph opened Pandora's box and triggered a cycle of internal strife that would doom the Umayyad dynasty. Islamic tradition regards Yazid III as one of the few righteous Umayyad caliphs, and even in his lifetime he was considered more virtuous than Umar II because he had supposedly been chosen by a Muslim council or shura, rather than through hereditary succession. He vowed to end abuses, reduce Syrian Arab privileges, and lighten taxes, even declaring that if he failed to fulfill his promises, Muslims would have the right to depose him. However, his reformist agenda revealed the caliph's weakness, and he died just 6 months later. His brother's succession was immediately challenged by Marwan II, governor of Armenia and Azerbaijan, who had good military experience and the backing of the Qays faction. Marwan crushed a caliphal army loyal to Yazid III's brother and proclaimed himself caliph in Damascus. Marwan II, believing his rule to be secure, spared his rivals from a political perch and moved his court to Harran, his former seat of government. However, a revolt broke out in Palestine and quickly spread across Syria, forcing him to retake rebellious cities one by one. Caliph Marwan then turned his attention to Iraq, but once again, rebellion flared up across Syria. This infuriated the caliph, as he had been lenient up to that point, only to have the Syrians repay his generosity with betrayal. In response, he ordered the destruction of the walls of numerous cities in the Levant, including Damascus. Natural disasters compounded the chaos, with earthquakes, famine, and plague devastating the region. Marwan II also had to restore Umayyad control in Egypt and Arabia, while battling Shia and Harahite revolts in Iraq, some of which were even supported by members of the Umayyad dynasty. After pacifying Syria a second time, he finally secured Iraq in 747. Peace seemed to have been restored, but it was merely a brief respite brought on by exhaustion before the final assault. The Abbasid Revolution. In 747, followers of the Hashemite movement rebelled, raising black banners in Merv, a city in Khorasan, now parts of Iran, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. This marked the start of the Abbasid Revolution, a rebellion that aimed for more than just a changing dynasty. Its supporters sought better governance and equality for all Muslims, regardless of ethnicity. But what was the Hashemite movement, who were the Abbasids, and why did the uprising happen in Khorasan? The Abbasids were descendants of Abbas, the Prophet Muhammad's uncle. Though they weren't direct descendants like those of Ali and Fatima, they belonged to Muhammad's extended family, the Banu Hashim, hence the name of the Hashemiyah. The Hashemiyah movement was a secretive Shiite sect that believed the caliph should be chosen among the members of Muhammad's extended family. When the rebellion started, there was no visible caliphal claimant. The movement united around the idea that someone from Muhammad's family should rule the Muslim community. Some favored Ali and Fatima's descendants, while others accepted the Abbasids. It was only later that the Abbasids took control of the movement, leading some historians to question whether this uprising should be called the Abbasid Revolution. Several factors made Khorasan the ideal place for the Hashemite rebellion. Khorasan had a large population of non-combatant Arabs who had assimilated significantly into the local Iranian population, while many locals had become clients of an Arab and converted to Islam. They intermarried and lived together as neighbors, business partners, and friends. As a result, Khorasan was one of the regions where the distinction between Arabs and the local Persian population was most blurred. This created a shared sense of identity that opposed the Umayyad dynasty's Arab supremacy and supported a universalist vision of Islam. Khorasan had been conquered from Iraq, a province with a strong support of Shia Islam. Moreover, the greatest grievance for the Muslims of Khorasan was that in some cases they were subjected to non-Muslim officials who forced them to pay taxes despite their exemption, while some non-Muslims were exempt due to favoritism. The last Umayyad governor of Khorasan tried to reform the tax system, but by then, anti-Umayyad sentiment was too strong. The conditions for rebellion became even more favorable after the Islamic calendar reached the year 100, our year 722, a moment that sparked the anticipation of the arrival of Islam's messianic figure, the Mahdi, who was expected to eradicate evil before the final judgment. The Hashemiyah capitalized on this, beginning their uprising with black banners associated with the Mahdi in the remote region of Khorasan, mirroring Muhammad's migration from Mecca to Medina. The Arabs and Iranians of Khorasan positioned themselves as the peoples of Medina who helped Muhammad defeat the leaders of Mecca, in this case, the Umayyads of Damascus. For many years, the Abbasids remained politically inactive in modern-day Jordan. That changed in 716 when rumors spread that Ali's descendants had transferred the imamate, the right to rule from the eyes of the Shia Muslims, to the Abbasids. By the 740s, the Abbasids had built an extensive network of allies and followers, thanks in large part to an Abbasid client named Abu Muslim. This included Yaman Arabs, Persians, and other non-Arab Muslims who were tired of being treated as second-class citizens, as well as supporters of descendants of Ali and pious religious leaders who viewed the Umayyads more as kings or tyrants than as true caliphs. The rebellion in Khorasan was led by Abu Muslim, who did not initially declare openly his allegiance to the Abbasids. The Umayyad governor of Khorasan requested reinforcements, but the caliph in Damascus lacked resources to respond to developments in one of the empire's most distant provinces. Later, Caliph Marwan II would regret ignoring this uprising, which would deliver the final blow to the Umayyad Caliphate. Abu Muslim's leadership helped the rebels quickly gain control of Khorasan and Transoxiana, then push into Iran. When the Black Banners reached Kufa, an important Arab garrison city in Iraq, the locals, known for their anti-Umayyad and Shiite leanings, expelled the Umayyad governor. Around this time, the Abbasid Imam was arrested and died under unclear circumstances, and his brother Abu al-Abbas al-Safa took over as the Abbasid Caliphate candidate. The leader of the Hashemiyya movement in Kufa had planned to hold a shura, a consultative assembly, to choose the most suitable candidate from Muhammad's family. However, thanks to Abu Muslim's efforts, al-Safa effectively staged a coup within the movement and declared himself caliph, sidelining Ali's descendants. It was unclear whether he would be a mere figurehead for a Khorasani military regime, but he soon proved to be a cautious yet determined ruler, establishing Abbasid authority by appointing family members to key military and administrative positions. In 750, the Abbasids faced the Umayyads at the Battle of Dazab in Iraq. Despite being outnumbered, the Abbasid army won decisively, and Umayyad resistance collapsed as cities surrendered one after another to the new Caliphal dynasty. Caliph Marwan II fled to Egypt, hoping to raise a new army, but was killed in battle. The Abbasids sought to eliminate every last Umayyad to prevent them from staging a comeback, like they had miraculously done during the Second Fitna. In one infamous event, they lured surviving Umayyads to a banquet under false promises of amnesty and killed them all, something reminiscent of the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. Only a few Umayyads survived in hiding, including a grandson of Caliph Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik, who will embark on a long journey west and establish the Emirate of Córdoba. But that is a story for the next episode. The Abbasids had promised sweeping change to a diverse array of discontented groups who supported the rebellion, but they failed to meet expectations. The rule did not restore the idealized era of the rightly guided caliphs, nor did it end hereditary rule or give power to Muhammad's direct descendants. However, they did bring one major transformation: the inclusion of non-Arabs in the empire's political and social structures. The Umayyad Empire had been an Arab Islamic state, but as more conquered peoples converted, the ruling class had to either de-Islamize the state or abandon Arab supremacy in the political and social structures. Given Islam's immense unifying power, the Abbasids chose the latter. While Arabic culture remained highly regarded, the empire itself became multi-ethnic and multicultural. The age of Arab conquest had ended. The age of Islamic civilization had begun. The Qays-Yaman Civil War in al-Andalus. We left off in episode 23, the governorate of al-Andalus, with the suppression of the Berber revolt and the death of General Balkh, the commander of the Syrian troops, or junts, who had fled to al-Andalus after being defeated in the Maghreb. The Syrians took control of Córdoba after defeating the Baladiyun, the original Arab conquerors and their descendants, and proclaimed Balkh's lieutenant, Talaba ibn Salama al-Almari, as their leader. Talaba and his army marched toward Merida, but were soon outnumbered by the Baladiyun, who laid siege to the city. Confident that the Syrians had no escape, the besiegers even celebrated a feast and didn't bother to exert much pressure. Seeing an opportunity, Talaba launched a surprise attack, defeated them, and captured many men, women, and children. Upon returning to Córdoba, they illegally sold these Muslim slaves to the lowest bidder to humiliate the Baladiyun, especially those of the Yaman faction. In al-Andalus, the longest-standing Qays-Yaman rivalry became further entangled with the Syrians' conflict with the Baladiyun. Some Arabs denounced Talaba's abuses, prompting the governor of Ifriqiya to appoint Abu al-Qatar as governor of al-Andalus in 743 to restore order after the chaos unleashed by the Berber revolt and the factional infighting following the Syrians' arrival. Abu al-Qatar pardoned the Berbers, reinstated the Baladiyun's freedoms and property, expelled Talaba and other key Syrians, and redistributed the Syrian troops across southern al-Andalus. He assigned them military districts, allowing them to collect taxes and keep a third of the revenue extracted in exchange for their military service. They also received additional benefits such as higher pay in military campaigns compared to the Baladiyun. This policy, advised by Ardabast, son of the Visigothic king Witiza, made the Syrians involved in the fiscal system while avoiding land seizures from the Baladiyun or Hispanogoths. The Damascus troops settled in the Cura of Elvira, the modern-day province of Granada. The Jordan Jun in Raya, Malaga. the Palestine June in Medina Sidonia and Algeciras, the Emesa June in Seville and Niebla, the Kinasrin June in Jayan, present-day Jaén, and the Egyptian June were split, with part stationed in the Portuguese Algarve region and another in the Cura of Tutmir, in the provinces of Murcia and Alicante. The Egyptian Syrians in Tutmir forged close ties with the Visigothic Duke Theodemir, as his daughter married a Syrian commander, Khattab, whose lineage remained one of the most prominent in Murcia during the centuries of Muslim rule. The Syrians of Tutmir reciprocated this alliance by paying off a debt that Governor Abu al-Khatar had demanded from Theodemir's heir. While initially landless, some Syrians later acquired property through purchase, marriage, or donations, like those from Ardabas, who gave over 100 villages to the Syrians. Their settlement strengthened the Arab presence in southern Iberia and had a profound political influence during the Emirate of Córdoba. Despite the governor's efforts to restore peace, the crisis in the Umayyad Caliphate following the assassination of Caliph al-Walid II prevented the resolution of the Qays-Yaman conflict in al-Andalus. Moreover, Abu al-Khatar was accused of favoring the Yaman faction, sparking tensions with the Qays leader al-Sumail, commander of the Kinasrin troops. After Abu al-Khatar's guards publicly humiliated al-Sumail, the Qays rebelled under his leadership. Al-Sumail cleverly allied with some Yaman and proposed one of them as governor. This coalition defeated and captured Abu al-Khatar at the Battle of Guadalete in 745, effectively ending direct Umayyad control in al-Andalus. The new Yaman governor was merely a puppet, later confirmed by the governor of Ifriqiya, but real power lay in al-Sumail's hands. However, in 746, some Yaman Arabs stormed Cordoba's Alcázar, or Islamic castle, in a special operation-style raid and freed Abu al-Khatar. The puppet governor avoided conflict but soon died, allowing al-Sumail to appoint the last governor of al-Andalus, Yusuf ibn Abd al-Rahman al-Fihri. Yusuf belonged to the Quraysh tribe, the same tribe as Muhammad's family and the Umayyads, and he was a direct descendant of the esteemed founder of the city of Kairouan, Uqba ibn Nafi. Historian Eduardo Manzano Moreno sees Yusuf's appointment as an alliance between the Baladiyun and Qays Syrians, who then sidelined the Yaman faction. In response, the Yaman governor of Narbonne rebelled, but was assassinated in 748 and replaced by a governor loyal to Yusuf. Meanwhile, Malaga's dismissed governor allied with Abu al-Khatar, leading to a final showdown near Córdoba. In the 747 Battle of Secunda, al-Sumail and Yusuf crushed their opponents, executed Abu al-Khatar, and carried out a massacre of the Yaman Arabs, cementing their control over al-Andalus. The Fihrid Emirate. With the victory at the Battle of Secunda and the collapse of the Umayyad Caliphate, we can consider Yusuf al-Fihri as the last governor of al-Andalus and its first independent emir. His rule, however, has been largely forgotten due to its brevity and the later success of the Umayyad prince Abd al-Rahman I. The Fihrid clan had the potential to establish a lasting kingdom in both al-Andalus and Ifriqiya, where a relative of Yusuf had declared himself governor after Caliph al-Walid II's assassination. However, this relative did not control the western Maghreb. After the fall of the Umayyad Caliphate in 750, he sought nominal vassalage with the Abbasids, but when they demanded real authority, he refused and sheltered Umayyad survivors, an act he later regretted. Meanwhile, in al-Andalus, Yusuf al-Fihri remained in Córdoba, controlling the Guadalquivir Valley, while his ally al-Sumail governed the Ebro Valley from Zaragoza. Scholars debate the nature of this arrangement. Levi Provençal saw it as rivalry, while Manuel Acien viewed it as a practical division of the richest and most heavily Arab-settled territories to better govern al-Andalus. Al-Sumail's presence in a stronghold of the Ebro Valley can also be explained by the fact that during the Civil War, the Muslims had neglected the frontier. King Alfonso I of Asturias expelled Muslims from the north and attacked fortresses as far as the provinces of Burgos and La Rioja. A severe drought and famine across the peninsula worsened the situation. Amidst this instability, a man from the Quraysh tribe named Amir al-Abdari sought recognition from the Abbasids as governor of al-Andalus. Before he could rally support in Córdoba, Yusuf uncovered his plot, forcing Emir to flee to Zaragoza. There, with the recognition of the Abbasid Caliph, he recruited Berbers and Yaman Arabs, the dominant Arab faction in the Middle Ebro Valley. This led to a pro-Abbasid revolt in 754, with Zaragoza besieged by the rebels and defended by General al-Sumail. Emir Yusuf lacked the troops to assist, possibly due to another revolt in Seville and southern Portugal, which was apparently led by discontented Hispano-Gothic Christians. Left to fend for himself, al-Sumail turned to the Syrian junts of Jaén and Granada for reinforcements, which arrived after initial hesitation. Upon hearing of their approach, the rebels abandoned the siege, and al-Sumail welcomed the Syrians, who brought envoys from Abdul-Rahman I seeking his support. Al-Sumail, however, remained non-committal. Strangely, instead of crushing the rebellion, his Qays Arabs and the reinforcements withdrew, allowing the rebels to take Zaragoza. In 755, Yusuf and al-Sumail led a campaign to crush the pro-Abbasid revolt once and for all. The people of Zaragoza, wary of the devastation caused by the rebels, surrendered the rebel leaders. The Fihrid Emir sought to execute them immediately, but some soldiers from the Syrian junts objected. However, Yusuf was not one to tolerate defiance. In response, he sent some dissenters on a doomed expedition to Vasconia without properly arming them, which resulted in the deaths of most of them. Pleased with this outcome, Yusuf executed Amir al-Abdari and other rebel leaders who posed a threat to his independent emirate. However, events quickly escalated when Abdul-Rahman I landed on the southern coast, marking the beginning of a new chapter in al-Andalus. The verdict. In today's verdict, I want to engage in a bit of alternative history and consider whether the Fihrid Emirate could have lasted. Some of the key dates in the history of al-Andalus include 711 with the conquest, 756 with the foundation of the Emirate of Córdoba, and 1031 with the dissolution of the Umayyad Caliphate of Córdoba. But if the Umayyad prince had never arrived or had been defeated by Yusuf, the entire subsequent history of al-Andalus would have been very different. We might instead mark 747 as the foundation of the Fihrid Emirate of Córdoba. Like Abdul-Rahman I, Yusuf would have faced challenges in asserting authority over the Arabs and Berbers of the provinces and resisting further Abbasid attempts to overthrow him. The Fihrids had a strong support among some Arabs and Berbers, and their alliance with al-Sumail helped keep many Syrians loyal. This was a strong governing coalition capable of sustaining an independent al-Andalus. Of course, compared to the prestige of the Umayyad name, the Fihrid name lacked grandeur. This led to some defections, and ultimately it was the arrival of an Umayyad that sealed the fate of the Fihrids and of al-Andalus. And with that, the verdict ends. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and click the notification bell if you are watching this on YouTube. If you would like to help me make this show possible, please consider joining my community of supporters on patreon.com/newhistoryspain, with a paid Apple Podcast subscription, or with a one-time donation. You will find links to all of that in the episode description. In the next episode of the main series, we will explore the foundation of the Emirate of Córdoba and the challenges Abdul-Rahman I had to overcome to establish his authority in al-Andalus. Follow me so you don't miss it, and see you next time!